About an hour and a half. Almost two
About
weeks.
it's about 90 minutes.
We had Klaus Kinski last week, so we went on and on and on.
Klaus Kinski.
Klaus Kinski.
Yeah, he was here, and
we covered his films last week.
He's dead.
Yeah, I know, but we just covered his films.
But not me. I bought him at an auction, and he's here next to me.
We showed a bunch of his trailers and posters, and
He was an interesting guy.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Spaghetti Westerns podcast. I am your host, Jay Jennings, and I am a poster collector and a film collector as well. And we always have our co-host, the Ed McMahon of all Spaghetti Westerns, the all-seeing, the all-knowing Tom Betts. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Jay. How you doing?
How are you? How was your week?
Doing good.
Good. Glad to hear it. Are you ready for today's topic?
Oh, sure. Always ready for Tony Anthony.
Right. Tony Anthony, the Silent Stranger, is our topic of the day. We've actually been trying for a while to get him on the show, but he's a tough cookie to corner. Tom and I both have his private cell phone number, and we're still waiting to hear back so the stranger can return our call. Or maybe he's just a blind man to our calls, Tom. Right? Anyway, so he didn't make many spaghetti westerns. I think he made half a dozen. Stranger in Town, The Stranger Returns, Silent Stranger, Blind Man, Get Mean, and of course, Coming at Ya, which is okay. It's not really great, but at least he kept the genre alive. And actually, Tony Anthony is one of the forerunners of bringing 3D movies back for a second and making them fun. So we have a lot planned for you today. We're going to go over the films of Tony Anthony. We're going to show some posters, some stills. Tom's going to first give a huge biography on his background. So stay with us, have a glass of wine or two, and after that, Tom and I will have a discussion where we discuss the films and the synopses and who was in it and how good we thought it was. So, as I said, he only made 6 spaghetti westerns, but he's still up there with all the greats. I mean, he's not up there with. He didn't make as many as Craig Hill or Anthony Stephan, but Tony Anthony, even though he was short in stature, I kind of call him the Dustin Hoffman of spaghetti westerns, Tom.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
He's still known by almost everybody who's into spaghetti westerns, so he's not a stranger.
No, but he made 3 films. I'm just going to say, from what I heard before Tom gives the background, he was a very smart actor. I guess he was living in Italy, and he saw, I guess, some of the Clint Eastwood movies, and that's where he just said, hey, I have a brainstorm. Let me call my agent and get in touch with some of the Italian studios. So he didn't just sit there on his laurels. He actually made the calls and said, I'd like to be a spaghetti western star. I mean, that was his goal. A lot of these people don't set out to be stars, Tom, but that was, why don't we make a trilogy like Leone one? So he had a plan and a goal, and you didn't think this short actor would able to get that done, but Tom, it worked, and he became famous.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right.
Also, I think when you listen to his biography, he's one of these guys that the saying pertains to: one door closes and another door opens up. It looked like, oh my God, my career's over. Next thing, he's got another opportunity. He just goes from one to the other.
Right. So, Tom, why don't you first give us a bio on Tony? So everybody, as I said, grab some popcorn and a favorite beverage while Tom tells you a little background on him.
Yeah, this biography I put together was taking a lot of information that most people don't know about from an interview he did a year ago. He's got a new book out that came out last year I'll talk about, but this is where a lot of this information came from that I wasn't aware of, and I've interviewed him. So Tony Roger Petito was born in Clarksburg, West Virginia on October 16, 1937. Tony was interested in theater arts while in high school. After high school, he traveled to the West Coast with his cousin Gene, who was also his best friend. Tony's uncle Pete was able to go to college and was chosen by the U.S. Army to work at the USO in Hollywood. Here he built Hollywood friendships. Uncle Pete talked Tony to come to California after high school and work for him in Palm Springs. Tony worked in construction and met stars at Palm Springs Summer Playhouse. He then was given small supporting roles because of his friendships with the actors there. Tony told Pete he wanted to become an actor. Pete went ballistic. He didn't want Tony to be an actor or a part of Hollywood, nor did Tony's father. Tony then decided he had to act on his own, so he contacted USC, UCLA, and since things in New York were picking up, he contacted Carnegie Tech. He was invited to Carnegie for an audition. Tony's mom found a local acting coach back in West Virginia, so he, at his audition, was able to do his scene and was accepted. He studied there for 2 years, and Carnegie prepared him for the big time in New York. Tony started to hang around the Brill building in New York where all the music people worked. He started to write rock and roll songs. Tony was taken under the wing of an agent and he helped him record a few songs. The producer liked Tony's presentation of his songs because of his acting ability, so he looked good on stage. He was signed to a contract. He was told to change his name to Tony Anthony. His record Peekaboo became a hit in the South. Here's a copy of Tony's record Peekaboo with Lonely One on the back side. Anyways, he was sent out on a DJ tour, and the kids liked him, especially the girls. The record company was impressed, so they sent him for an audition at the Copacabana, where he was ignored, and he knew he needed to return to acting. Then he met Saul Swimmer, who helped Tony find small roles in plays. Saul and Tony wanted to produce an off-Broadway play called The Follies of 1910, along with a friend, Peter Gale. Both Saul and Peter were wealthy, but Tony had to scrape and claw to raise his share of the money, but he did and became a full-fledged partner. Then they decided to make a movie short. They made a film with Tallulah Bankhead's nephew called The Boy Who Owned a Melephant. Apparently he couldn't say elephant, he could only say melephant. That's where the title came from. And it impressed Bankhead so much she agreed to narrate it. Once she agreed, they were able to get the money together to make the film. Universal bought it and paired it with their number one hit of the year, Pillow Talk, which was Doris Day and Rock Hudson starring film in double releases at drive-ins and theaters. Through Saul Swimmer, Tony was introduced to Alan Klein, and together they made Force of Impulse. Anthony then moved to Italy to film Wounds of Hunger and La Grazia in Prestito. He started to make the movie but ran out of money. The film was being shot in Mexico, and Tony fled Mexico, leaving a line of debts behind him. Tony then met a producer who was involved in Spanish co-productions with Italy. Tony went to Spain and discovered all of Hollywood was there working. He was able to finish Wounds of Hunger, La Ragazza Il Prestito, which was released only in Europe. Tony then put together a movie company called Primes Italiana and made movies mostly which starred himself. Anthony contacted Klein, then a major stockholder at Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, about releasing a spaghetti western, for which he would play the lead role. Anthony also served as an uncredited executive producer on the film. Having raised $40,000 with another American, James Hager, the film Klein released was A Stranger in Town, starring Anthony as the stranger, a shotgun-wielding anti-hero who helps a group of Mexican bandits steal gold from the U.S. Army and federales and then steals it right back from them. Released by MGM to compete with the United Artists Dollars trilogy, starring Clint Eastwood, it became a surprise success and spawned 3 sequels in which Anthony reprised his role. Remember, the Dollars trilogy wasn't released in the United States until 1966. So Tony saw the writing on the wall, and his films were released at the same time the Dollars films were, and they capitalized on the Dollar films. Anthony designed a low-cost production lens, which was cheaper than conventional 3D lenses. Anthony would star in one more 3D film, Treasure of the Four Crowns. Anthony next announced a 3D science fiction movie called Seeing is Believing, but the 3D craze was over. It could not find a financier and was never made. In August of 2009, Anthony announced he had taken the over and under 3D format of Coming At You and converted it to digital 3D as a part of the film's reissue. Following an exhibition at Fantastic Fest in Austin, Texas on September 25, 2011, the film was restored and digitalized for a 30th anniversary theatrical release and played in theaters throughout Texas, starting in February of that year. Because of that lens, Tony went into the medical industry with it, and it's a highly praised and used device this day in diagnosing diseases. Today, Tony has returned to his West Virginia roots to take care of family members. He has most recently written a book called Anthony Quotes and Thoughts, Collection That Might Touch a Nerve. What he does is take famous quotes and helps those quotes define the actor who uttered them. That is the bio of Tony up to this date that we know of.
Well, thanks for that, Tom, and thank you for joining us, everybody. Good night. Anyway, no, that was an awesome, I guess, bio that Tom put together, basically in a nutshell of his the interview that he gave, and a fascinating career that he had, especially inventing that lens for 3D use, and of course later in the medical field. Very smart businessman, Tony Anthony is.
Yep.
As I said, what he makes up for in height or maybe personality in some of his films, because he's usually very low key. The films are actually pretty good. So we're going to discuss them one by one, beginning with A Stranger in Town, and I'll tell you a little bit about it. It was made in '66, known as Un dolore tra I denti, which is the Italian title, and it was directed by Luigi Vanzi, or Vance Lewis. And of course, it was Frank Wolfe, isn't it? The great Frank Wolfe, Yolanda Modio, Gia Sandri, Ralph Baldassare, and Aldo Berti. Stranger, dressed like a U.S. Army captain, played by Anthony, helps an outlaw named Aguilar, played by Frank Wolfe, rob a large load of gold. When he wants a piece of it for his efforts, Aguilar has him beaten up by the other gang members. After having recovered, he follows a gang to Cerro Gordo when he tries to get even with them. They outsmart him. Captured, he has to endure torture by Aguilar's mistress, played by Modio, but eventually escapes. He takes out Aguilar's henchmen one by one until Aguilar is on his own, and the final showdown comes. Using his brains to outwit Aguilar and his Gatling gun, he finally comes out on top. Tom tells me before the show he really didn't like the film because he thought it was an Italian actor that was going to not be as tough as Clint. But you changed your mind, Tom?
Yeah, I didn't understand the character at all. I wanted my heroes to be like Clint, where he walks down the street and faces them head on, where Tony was the street fighter from New York who hid under boardwalks, shot from rooftops, used a lot of tricks to waylay his enemies. And because of his short stature, he just didn't fit the bill. And since I thought he was an Italian actor, I thought all the rest of the Italian Westerns were going to be like Stranger in Town. So that turned me off.
Right. We'll mention Frank Wolfe in a second later. Sad thing ending to that. But basically, it's a drifter who resembles the Man with No Name, but a shorter version. I hate to harp on that, but I mean, all these other leading men, 6'2", 6'4". But anyway, maybe that's the last time I'll mention that. We understand. Yes, he was like the Arthur or the Dudley Moore of spaghetti westerns. But
he was the Audie Murphy of spaghetti.
Audie Murphy too was a young guy, as we have pixelation issues on my end. Anyway, where the Man with No Name faces enemies head on, the stranger uses streetwise methods, and he tricks his foes with his ambushing techniques. The stranger's determination to get his share of the loot gets him deeper and deeper in trouble. That's a great plot line, so at least the movie keeps going. There's a famous line throughout the film, Tom. What is it?
What kind of man is Aguilar? He's a fair man. And then he
The
tells
character
Tony, "You're not getting any of my gold." He's a fair man, but he's not.
right. The character he spouts wisecracks during the whole film. The horse looks like it's on its last legs. There are some goofs, of course, Tom. There's no day-night filter, so the sky is always blue, right, Tom?
Yeah, midnight is still blue.
Right. Chica's son's hair goes and comes from interior to exterior. How is that possible, Tom?
Probably used two different little babies.
Anyway, so Frank Wolfe agreed to appear in the film to help a fellow actor, Anthony from Carnegie. He took a lower salary than he normally would get, of course, as Frank Wolfe's in a lot of classics. Unfortunately, what happened to Frank Wolfe, he was down on his luck and he asked Tony for a role in Blind Man. And he was told that all the roles were cast. Maybe that was, we'll talk about Alan Klein's involvement, but that only deepened Wolfe's depression. And not too long afterwards, sadly, he committed suicide, Tom.
Yeah, it's a sad thing. Tony's never forgiven himself. He said he should have found some type of role to put him in, but it didn't happen. And then Wolfe lost his girlfriend, wife, whatever, and he went into deep depression and committed suicide. Yep.
That's
And funny.
yeah.
It was Brett Halsey told us that he committed suicide in the same hotel that Brett was staying in at the time.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Wow. So I guess tomorrow we live, tomorrow we die, Tom.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's sad. A lot of sad. Maybe that always gives me an idea, Tom, to put together maybe with Peter Lee Lawrence and with what's the guy at the beginning of Once Upon a Time in the West, Tom? Who gets shot by, he's also in The Good and the Bad, the Ugly, gets shot in the bathtub.
Al Mullock.
Yeah, his sad ending. A lot of sad, maybe we'll do that. Sad ending, tragic endings to great spaghetti Western actors.
Ettore Manny, who's in a couple of these, shot himself by accident with what he thought was a replica gun.
Right. Well, that's
similar to Alec Baldwin's situation. Yeah.
Right. So let's move on to the next film of Tony Anthony, which was a sequel to Stranger in Town. It's Stranger Returns, also known as Un Uomo, Un Cavallo, Una Pistola. And as I said, it was a sequel, and it came out in '67, once again directed by Luigi Vanzi, and with a story by Tony Anthony, which basically the first one was as well. Also, Dan Vadas is in this film, and Marina Berti, and who else? Ettore Mani, and Daniel Vargas, and Ralph Baldassari. Try saying that fast 3 times. Anyway, we know the story. Gang of outlaws acting on the border between the U.S. and Mexico with the complicity of a postal officer seizes a carriage full of gold that was trying to pass the border illegally, Tom. A drifter that nobody knows, called the Stranger, which is hilarious, becomes aware of it, but is unable to exterminate the band of outlaws. When trying to get away with the golden carriage, a trivial incident reveals its unique composition, Tom, and the adventurer is forced to return it and settle for the reward of the bounties placed on the head of the bandits. Now, this one had a bigger budget, didn't it, Tom?
Yeah, it did. He's got a much better looking horse. His serape or poncho is clean. He's clean. The whole film has a step higher, better score. And they were able to hire a little bit higher class of supporting actors.
Right. And, of course, you had a great horse named Pussy, Tom. Let's not forget Pussy.
Exactly.
And, and the supporting cast was a little bigger. Interestingly enough, Klaus Kinski was signed to play the role of Ein Plain, but broke his back trying to show off his skills, trying to ride a stallion that had been corralled all winter and had just been let out. So not a very smart move by Klaus. There he was replaced by Dan Vadas, who was known to act up and create difficulty, but Tony said he got along great. A lot of wisecracks again, Tom. The Golden Stagecoach, or variation, was used in several future spaghetti westerns. And of course, we had a crazy preacher in Marco Guglielmo, who has a nice touch and a better score in production. So do you think this one's a little better than the first one?
Yeah, I like this one much better than the first one.
Yeah, the story is a little bit more interesting, got better dialogue, stuff like that. And also there was the addition of a parasol, Tom, stolen from who?
Oh yeah, from Tuco in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Yeah, pink parasol. Yep. Well, it goes along with his horse pussy, you know.
This is my horse pussy.
Yeah, really.
Anyway, so it's a good film. It is. Each one keeps getting better, although The Silent Stranger has its mixed critics. But it's actually, if you look at if you have a marathon and watch all three, it's actually quite enjoyable. So the next film in the trilogy was indeed The Silent Stranger, and also known in Italy as Lo Straniero di Silenzio. Also known weirdly as The Horseman and the Samurai, Tom. I'm not really a big fan of samurai spaghetti western movies, as you know, but what can you do? Not only did it have Tony Anthony, it had the great Lloyd Battista in this movie. Let's show the poster. And William Conroy's in the movie. And, of course, Ralph Baldassari, again, he's in all three.
He's in all of them, yep.
And directed again by, surprisingly enough, Luigi Vanzi. So I guess Tony liked working with him. Of course, produced by Alan Klein, the three of these. He was the manager of the Beatles. We'll get more into that when we discuss Blind Man. But the story opens up with the stranger traversing the Klondike goldfields. I wish they'd stay away from White Fang Country, Tom. But the action is soon transferred to the interiors of a miner's shack, so maybe that was there was some budgetary constraints.
It just sets the plot.
Oh, okay. Stranger obtains a mysterious scroll with the promise of payment if the scroll is delivered to a certain Matori in Japan. The stranger then arrives in Japan. Was that actually in Japan, Tom?
Yes, it was.
Oh, okay. The stranger slowly explores the unknown territory, the narrow streets and the nooks of a Japanese village, where then he encounters some problems such as an unfriendly samurais. They're always unfriendly, Tom. Mm-hmm. A Tong war, and then the American who owns and operates a machine gun. Stranger is pushed into a deluge of events and uncovers reasons of ever-present hatred and violence. He tries to exploit the situation and soon finds out it's a cutthroat game, especially when it comes down to family matters of Japanese clans. Eventually, the stranger wants to do is deliver the scroll and collect his payment and leave. Now, there was a dispute, Tom, between Alan Klein and MGM. So that's why the film was basically not even shown for many years. Why was that?
Yeah, I think Tony also told us there were several changes in studio heads. So it kept getting shoved back on the shelf over and over again. But that's why a lot of people don't even know about The Silent Stranger, because it took so long to be released. And it's probably why he didn't do a fourth or a fifth.
Yeah, probably. They were loosely based on Yojimbo. What spaghetti western, as I go in and out of fading, what spaghetti western isn't based on Yojimbo, Tom? Right. Tony came full circle because it focused in Japan, and the rain and overcast skies added to the feel of it, being a samurai film. Kind of like The Master Gunfighter, Tom, with Tom Laughlin.
Yeah, it rained almost every day that they did filming, and at first Tony and the crew were completely depressed about that, but then they realized that it added to the ambiance, and it looked like an Akira Kurosawa film. So then they said, "Okay, let's do it in the rain," and that's the way they did it.
Right, move it over a little bit to the right, Tom, just a little bit. There you go, right there. So no, I agree. Most of the Japanese actors did not speak English, which led to some difficulty. It always does.
It always does.
Great soundtrack. It actually predates most future spaghetti western, kung fu westerns of the 70s. It's actually, out of all of them, I'd say it's one of the better ones, even though I'm not a big fan. Lloyd Battista was a member of Tony's stock company, and his theater background adds a bit of class to the proceedings. So the third in the trilogy, The Silent Stranger, but I would suggest watching them all one after another in between a favorite wine or other beverage. Okay, now let's move to my favorite Tony Anthony spaghetti western, and which is Blind Man. And I think out of all the spaghetti westerns ever made, Tom, this film I think has the most posters for any film ever made. What do you think?
Yeah, it could be.
I was
Could very well be.
researching this, and I found like hundreds
Yeah.
of Blind Man, all derivative of this one, of course, whether it was green, red, different size. And I just thought, wow, that's crazy. So, but it's actually a very, very good film. Ringo Starr, drummer for the Beatles, is cast against type, playing this ornery, mean SOB. Where are my women? Which I say all the time. But he looks great. Tony looks great. It's actually, I would put it in a top 20 of spaghetti westerns. It's just that damn good. The plot is fantastic. What's ironic is Ringo plays a character named Candy, and he was in a movie called Candy. I wonder if that's an in-joke.
Could be.
Right. Lloyd Batista's in it again. Agneta Eckemeyer, Franz Truberg, Magda Konopka, and of course Ralph Baldessari again. And there's Ringo. I'm in a movie called Blind Man, Tom. And he's very good in it. He actually is good. So people don't understand. I mean, John Lennon ventured into acting a little bit here and there, but Ringo really had the chops down, especially if he acts against type. Well, let's tell you the story. We've reviewed this film before, but not in this theme. A blind gunman has been hired to deliver his 50 brides to a group of minors. His partner Skunk double crosses him and sells them to a Mexican bandit named Domingo and his brother Candy, played by Ringo. The women are taken to Mexico with the intention of selling them to the Mexican army, whom Domingo intends to double cross. Blind Man, with the help of his horse, finds the women and demands that Domingo return them to him. So every 5 minutes, he does say, "Where are my women?"
That's right.
That's why I say it every 5 minutes. And Domingo refuses and throws him out. The Blind Man cleverly kidnaps Candy and holds him for ransom for the 50 women. Domingo then agrees, but when Blind Man has loaded them into a train headed north, he discovers the 50 young, beautiful women have been substitute for 50 gagged old women. So it's a great kind of bait and switch. Now Blind Man, this is where it becomes a revenge movie. He's out for blood and confronts Domingo, who has him thrown in a dungeon with a captured Mexican general. Here he's tortured by the Mexican bandit's sister, Sweet Mama. Can't forget Sweet Mama.
Oh, yeah.
Blind Man helps the general to escape, turns the tables on Sweet Mama, and then sets a trap for Domingo. In the end, he meets Domingo in a darkened cemetery building, and with the playing surface now being equal, kills him, and the rest of the Mexican bandits are defeated by the general and his men, who have come to the rescue of our hero. Of course, Tony Anthony says, "Yeah, I get to kill Ringo at the end."
Yeah.
Which is great. How many people get to, do that in a movie? So, or maybe he's taking revenge for replacing Pete Best so many years ago. But anyway, Tom, as I said, I think you agree, it's his best Western. What do you think?
I totally agree. It's his best Western. I mean, the scenes, again, wisecracks. He's fighting with Domingo's sister, and the bitch bites. And another scene, he's eating some lettuce or something, and there's a snake in there. I mean, I still think one of the best scenes, Jay, is when he gets on the board the train. He thinks he's got his women now, and he finds out by touching their faces and stuff that they're these old hags. Taped and by, yeah. And he goes ballistic on the train, yeah.
Right, that's where he freaks out and becomes a revenge movie.
Yep.
Ringo was added, obviously, because of the Alan Klein, because he asked Alan Klein if he wanted to be in it. Of course I do, Alan. I think the Beatles were coming, near the closing years, and Ringo was branching out into acting. So it was a great coup, great bit of acting. Ringo's in a couple other movies where he makes appearances. I think he's in Listomania for a minute by Ken Russell. I'm not sure, but I know he made a couple other movies. Of course, he made Caveman, which you could
Funny
pass
as
on,
hell.
but he was a producer.
Oh, I
on.
love that one.
You like that, Tom?
I love it. Yeah, it's just so corny. It's crazy.
Maybe
yeah.
for Barbara Bach, Tom.
Yeah, Barbara Bach.
Right, but he holds his own, Ringo, and he does steal the show in every scene he's in. It was filmed coincidentally on the El Condor set, Tom.
That's right.
And Tony's brother, Roger, believes that they coined the name Dude when that's the name was used to call his character. So do you think the Coen brothers ripped that off for The Big Lebowski, Tom?
Well, that saying, "Hey, dude," when you don't know somebody's name, you call them a dude. And Roger thought that they coined that phrase when
I
they
think
made
that
this
word was
film.
used in 50s Westerns, Tom.
Probably.
But anyway, so great film, Blind Man.
One thing we forgot to discuss. People ask why he didn't make a sequel to Blind Man because it was so successful, and like you and I think it's his best film. He had such terrible problems with the contacts. They irritated his eyes so much. He actually developed a infection, and he said he would never do another film like that to put contacts in his eyes.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting, Tom. Good bit of trivia. So then after Blind Man, there was a couple-year break, and Tony wanted to get back into making spaghetti westerns again. And Get Mean is not bad. It's not bad at all. I love the quadruple-barreled shotgun. If you're going to make a film in the late years of spaghetti westerns, when it's basically a dead genre in '75, outside of the few that Gemma made, which one was that? California, Tom, in '75.
California, Silver Saddle.
Right. So anyway, this one came out in '75, also known as Beat a Dead Horse and Vengeance of the Barbarians. I'm glad they didn't go with that one. Now, this one was directed by the great Fernando Baldi, Tom, who a lot of spaghetti western actors worked with. Story was by him and Lloyd Battista, so interesting story. And it's so funny. He plays a guy called the Stranger, so maybe this is the fourth film, Tom.
This is the fourth one because if you look at him, he is the stranger. Yep.
Right? A drifting cowboy is offered 50 grand in gold to deliver a princess to her native Spain. Arriving there, the princess and the cowboy are caught between two warring factions who are fighting over a fortune of hidden treasure. Princess Elizabeth turns out to be the one and only one who knows where the fortune is located. It's kind of like Good and Bad, the Ugly, Tom. So when Diego forces win, they take Elizabeth captive and leave the stranger dangling by a rope on his heels. With the help of a gypsy girl, the stranger manages to infiltrate Diego's fortress and duels with Sombra, Diego's arms expert. Finally having enough, the stranger, quote-unquote, gets mean and destroys the fortress with guns and dynamite, and a surprise for Diego. So in doing so, he's able to single-handedly destroy the fortress and uncover the treasure. So as Tom says, as we discussed earlier, the stranger goes ballistic.
That's right. This is a completely different stranger than we've seen before.
It was kind of a parody of his earlier work, Tom.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, making fun of the other one. I mean, that picture of him just covered with dynamite tells you everything.
Where he has
you need
his
to know.
he's Tarface, Tom.
Yeah,
Not Scarface, but Tarface.
Scarface. That's right.
Right?
So we asked him when Bill Connolly and I interviewed all of them. We asked him what he was trying to do with this film because it was so completely different than the other strangers, and they thought if they could transport him back in another time frame, a different world, and it worked, they could put the stranger anywhere. They could put him in World War II. They could put him on the moon. It would be endless as far as plots were concerned, but it just didn't work.
Right. And of course, the princess is played by my number one hottie spaghetti western actress of all time, Deanna Loris.
Yep.
If I didn't have my wife, she would be Mrs. Jennings. So we know that already. That goes without saying. As soon as I saw the Texican, I'm saying, honey, You might have to go away for a while. This is my wife. But anyway, and then Lloyd Bautista basically becomes Richard III.
Yeah.
And then his brother, Roger, steals several scenes as his crazy assistant.
Yep.
So Get Mean is not bad. It's not bad at all. And actually, you can add it as a fourth to the Stranger films. Okay, so then obviously many years go by, almost a decade.
Well, no,
And,
5 years. Only 5 years. It was made in 75, and Coming at You was 80.
Oh, you're right. 5 years. My bad.
Yep.
So about half a decade. Or I meant the new decade arrives.
Oh, sure.
And I don't think too many spaghetti westerns were made in the 80s, but this was one of them. I wasn't a fan of this, Tom, when it first came out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it grows a little bit on you. Well, I thought, I don't know. I just thought enough is enough already, but whatever.
Did you see
Also
it in
known as
3D?
Devil Rider, Pale Fighter. Good thing not Pale Rider, Tom.
Yeah, really.
Right. It's a Spanish-USA co-production that was made in, made in Madrid, Tom.
Yep.
And this is directed again by Fernando Baldi. The story by Tony and his brother, and Victoria Abril is in this. She's a hottie actually too. Gene Quintano, Ricardo Palacios, Domenico Cianfriglia, Louis Gordon, Gefrado Unger, and Rafael Albasan. A lot of other people are in this as well, Tom, like Louis Barbu, one of my favorite names in spaghetti westerns.
Yeah, they have small roles in there, but they use a lot of the Spanish character actors.
Right. Tragedy strikes as two ruthless brothers kidnap a bride during her wedding. Hurt and Angry, H.H., which is Tony Anthony's name, begins his quest to find the love he's lost and take vengeance upon the wicked kidnappers, the Thompson brothers. Now, as Tom and I discussed, we do our notes before the show. It was only unique, I guess, due to the 3D aspect of it, the only 3D Western, which I'm surprised, between you and me, Tom, that this idea wasn't thought earlier, perhaps in the 70s, or maybe with a Trinity movie, Trinity in 3D.
Yeah, apparently the problem with 3D is not only getting the lens, but you have to use a silver screen to project it on, and that costs money. And unless the distributor is going to pay for the screens, the movie theater sure isn't going to pay for a screen that he'll probably never use again. So that was the problem in distribution on these 3D films.
Right. And what was cool is I think as I said, Tom and I always have a discussion before the show. We go over our notes. It was cool that they didn't overdo it. Like at 3D movies, every 5 seconds they shove a pole or something long, because obviously the longer the object, the more weirder it looks going into the camera. Let's see. What was the good one, Tom? Where a guy shucks corn into a baby's butt.
No, I love the beginning of the movie because he's walking around a stable, and he turns up a boot, and it's got written by Roger Petito and so and so. He goes over to his saddle and he turns the saddle over, and it's got, cinematography by so-and-so. And it was just casual. They weren't trying to do anything, like you said, with poles or throw something at the camera. And it looked great because it was 3D. It looked like you were actually seeing him walking through a stable.
Right.
And then when the action began, it was like about halfway through, they decided, well, we got to start putting segments in here that show off the 3D. So there's a guy. The camera's down at the bottom of a bucket, and he's shucking corn. You can see the corn pellets, coming towards the camera.
Oh, I see. Okay. I wondered what you meant by that, Tom.
Yeah, another one they change a baby's diaper, and his butt put down on the diaper, and the camera's the.
I've only seen it once, Tom, so.
Yeah. Well, the best scene, and I asked Tony about this, was he's being chased by an Indian who's got Freddie Unger, who's a fantastic stunt coordinator, stunt man. And the arrows go right by Tony's head, and I mean, they are close, within inches of his head. And I asked him if that was done by trick photography. He said, no. Those things were just missing me, but I trusted Freddie, and he pulled it off. So those things go right by Tony's head and right out to the camera, so it looks like it's coming at you in the audience.
Right, and I know the score you like by Carlos Savina.
Love the score, yep.
right? And like most 3D movies, whether it's Jaws 3D or Parasite, remember that 3D movie, Tom?
Yeah.
That was with, what's her name? That actress who was married to Bruce Willis?
Oh,
Demi Moore?
Demi Moore.
That was one of her first films. That was a terrible 3D movie. So the print never transfers properly to DVD. I mean, I think they flatten it. I think they get rid of the 3D effect.
Yep. I mean, it's okay to
Amityville
watch.
3D. That's another great one.
Yeah, it's okay to watch, but you lose the the unique effects that was supposed
Right.
to be 3D. One other thing mentioned is Victoria Brill was huge Spanish actress in the 70s and 80s, and this was her very first role. In fact, when Bill and I talked to them, they couldn't remember her name. They just said some Spanish actress. When I found out who it was, I'm going, holy mackerel. That's like getting Sophia Loren to play in your first role in an Italian Western.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, of course, in your brilliant intro, how the 3D effects or the glass that Tony Anthony helped develop is used in the medical industry to help advance X-rays and stuff like that. So that was basically the career in posters and in stills of Tony Anthony. But we're not done yet, folks. We've got a little bit more to bring you. We actually are bringing 2 segments back for today. And we're going to bring the first one. Tom's first going to show a couple of the issues from Westerns all'Italiano that they did on Tony Anthony. And then we're going to bring back another great segment that I think we should bring back, because we all sit there with our eyes like this, seeing how Tom opens each one of his posters. So we bring
Sorry,
to you...
Jay.
Huh?
Sorry, Jay. I've already got them opened. All I got to do is pick them up and show them.
Well, that's still a concern, Tom.
That's right.
So anyway, let's bring to you once again Tom's Poster Attic.
Okay, first of all, these are the 2 issues that we did on Tony Anthony, 1987. So we would have interviewed him earlier in the fall. This is the first one. And then number 2 is Tony Anthony Returns, which I had him sign. And as he wrote, Tom, they still change the titles every 2 years and resell them again. It's because of friends like you, signed Tony. So those are the 2 issues that we did on him, his career. And then, as far as get this chair out of the way. Okay. For some reason, I don't have a copy of the Stranger in Town, but I've got the double release that they would show at drive-ins and theaters. More Stranger Than Ever, and it's Stranger in Town and The Stranger Returns.
Oh, so it's the double bill, Tom.
Double bill one, that's the American issue. That's fine.
There was a cringeworthy moment right there, Tom.
Yep. Also, American.
Yeah, show it again, Tom. Bring it up a little bit. Okay. Yeah, I was never a fan of him holding the umbrella, Tom.
Yep. No, me either.
But I think that was the whole point, showing this brooding, gritty guy holding an umbrella.
Yeah, really. Well, again, the horse named Pussy, so...
Tom, you know what it is? You're so funny. You might have them unfolded, but now we get to watch you fold them.
Fold them? Okay. This is the other title for...
Shoot first, last laugh. In all my titles, Tom, I don't think I've seen that before.
Yep. This is from... this is actually from Rome on the back.
That is a nice one, Tom.
So, and then, of course, and this one was hard to find because of its limited...
It looks like it's already starting to tear, Tom.
Yeah, that's fine.
No biggie.
This is
When he stops talking, start running.
That's probably the best artwork of all of them.
It's very Red Sun, Tom.
It's what?
Red Sun?
Oh, yeah, it looks like Red Sun. You're right, yeah. You can see that. Okay, and then
I love that quadruple barrel.
uh-huh. There she is, Diana Loris.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's my wife.
Sure, Jay. Keep dreaming.
A man can dream, Tom,
That's right.
or you can say be delusional.
Now, here's some rare ones.
Oh,
Here's
nice.
Japanese blind
Oh
man.
yeah, Tom,
There's
sweet.
Ringo.
And
Lloyd
that's Jason
Batista.
Robards behind him.
Lloyd Batista.
I know, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. There's
Oh,
the
and
50
Reese
Wives.
Witherspoon. I didn't know Reese Witherspoon's in this, Tom.
Agneta Ekmeyer on the bottom.
She was hot. Actually, looks
Real-
like Tiger Woods' ex-wife.
A little bit of trivia in the opening of "And for a Sky Full of Stars for a Roof." In the opening scene, the dead blonde girl that they kill at the stagecoach robbery, which she never says a word because she's dead, was Agneta Ekmeyer.
Wow.
And then here's the other blind man. Nothing compared
No,
to
any Japanese poster is really cool, Tom. Is that when you went to Okinawa, Tom?
No, I don't know where. Somebody probably sent me those.
Well,
And then the American.
right. I have something similar to that. Mine's
One of the-
green.
One of the 50 versions, yeah. And another one, I don't know what.
Yeah. Tom, how come you have so many Tony Anthony posters?
I don't know.
You must have liked them when you got them.
And they didn't have any of them. They all wanted our posters. And the last one, I showed this last week with the soundtrack, but I'll show it again. It's
Oh, you mean the episode that...
the missing episode, yeah.
Right. Coming at you. I actually remember the commercial. Tony Anthony is coming at you. Wow, that's great, Tom. Fantastic. And there's Tom's poster addict. I always just kick back here and enjoy. I love watching that. So with that said, there is some things to report, some news. Is there some obits, Tom?
One.
One obit, and there's some Blu-ray releases?
Yep, there's 4.
Okay, Tom.
Plus,
Well,
plus 2 books.
2 books. So, ladies and gentlemen, we bring back to you a missing segment that has now entered the show. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom's Weekly News.
Okay, I'm going to put this up and try and read it, show you what I'm going to talk about first. There's a new French book released, 10,000 Facons de Mourir, Point de Vue d'un Scéniste sur les Western Italiens, which is actually 10,000 Ways to Die in French. It's made by author Alex Cox, published by Carlotta Films in France with 624 pages. It's in French. It was made available November 4th. British filmmaker Alex Cox does more than provide a subjective and colorful panorama of the Italian Western. He restores its creative, economic, and social history, defining the genre as one of the most political, anti-establishment, and anarchistic in the history of cinema. The other one for you, we talked about this before when we had author Kevin Grant on. He's re-released his book, Any Gun Can Play. It's in a larger format and hardcover.
Lift it up, Tom, a little higher. If you thought that first version wasn't big enough,
Yeah, that's
this
the
big one is going to weigh like 10 pounds.
Yeah, really. And it's a new, larger format. See comparative photo, which shows the original edition on the right alongside the newer, larger press.
Okay, we can't see you, Tom.
Oops. Okay. It's only 24.99 pounds, which was at least, I think it was 35 or 39 when it was first released.
Or 50 even.
Maybe even, yeah. This one is autographed by Kevin, not Franco Nero, but Kevin. And you can order it from Fab Press. If you want to go online, it's www.fabpress.com.
And Tom and I get a nickel off every copy.
Anyone who hasn't got a copy of this, you better go get one now or ask for it for Christmas because it's got to be in your
It is the
library.
Bible of spaghetti
The
westerns,
Bible
Tom.
is correct. There's also came out a new French Blu-ray DVD release of California, directed by Michel Lupo and starring Juliana Gemma, William Berger, Miguel Bozé, Raymond Harmsdorf. It was released on Artist Films with 2 discs, Region Audio 1.0 French, Dolby Digital 1.0 Italian, with French subtitles. Running time is 68 minutes, so I'm guessing that is cut. It was released on November 2nd.
Right
There's
there
the,
it is, Tom.
there's the cover right there.
Right, you
Okay.
showed it.
Another French artist film Blu-ray DVD combo, the uncut version 2K restoration of Killer Caliber 32, directed by Alfonso Brescia and starring Peter Lee Lawrence, Agnes Spock, Massimo Righi, Alberto Del Acqua. It's in French. Running time of 94 minutes. This was released also on November 2nd. There's a picture of it on the top. This one is Django, since it was apparently allowed to be released, has gone ballistic. There's a new French Blu-ray HD release of Django, directed by Sergio Corbucci, starring Franco Nero, Eduardo Fajardo, Jose Badalo, Loredana Nusiak, and Gino Pernice. Released again by Carlotta Films on 2 discs, a new 4K restoration, HD and Blu-ray. It's in Italian, English, and French with French subtitles. Running time is 92 minutes. This limited prestige edition contains the Blu-ray and a DVD. Also, memorabilia includes 5 postcards, a poster of the film, 8 stickers, 2-sided Italian lobby card. Extras include Alex Cox on talking about Django for 14 minutes. Django Never Dies. Interview with Franco Nero, 26 minutes. The Cannibal of the Far West interview with Ruggero Deodato, 26 minutes. Sergio, My Husband interview with Nora Corbucci, 28 minutes. This was made available November 3rd. Also from France and Carlotta Films is El Chancho, which is a bullet for the general. Directed by Damiano Damiani and starring Gian Maria Volonte, Lou Castel, and Klaus Kinski. This contains just 1 disc, HD restored version. It's in English and French with French subtitles. Running time of 118 minutes. Extras include Alex Cox about Kian Sabi, 11 minutes. The Revolutionary Western, a 2004 interview with Lou Castel, and the trailer, made available November 3rd, 2021. And that's El Chancho down at the bottom.
Quien sabe, Tom.
Kian Sabi. Okay, last report. Rest in peace, Silvio Lorenzi. Lorenzi died November 5th, 2021. He was 85. He was a costume designer. He was born in Rome on May 20th, 1926. He began his career in cinema in the first half of the 1960s as an actor, an activity that around the first half of the following decade began to alternate with that of stage costume designer, which over time became his actual profession, especially in the vein of comedies. In 2009, he won the gold medal for a Life for Cinema event. Lorenzi worked on 2 spaghetti westerns, Dead Men Ride in 71, as an assistant costume designer, and our favorite, The White, the Yellow, and the Black, as the costume designer, 1975. That's this week's news.
Well, the weekly news. Nice to
Weekly
see that
news.
segment again. So, everybody, I want to thank you all our fans of the Spaghetti Westerns podcast, for joining us. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and so we can get the algorithm going and we can reach out to more and more people. This is the only Spaghetti Westerns podcast in the world, at least also the one with the longest episode count, with close to 60. You can find the best of our Spaghetti Westerns podcast, the 20 best so far and growing, on iTunes, Anchor, and Spotify. Also Google Podcast as well. We also have a Facebook page that please you should like and follow. And I archive all our episodes both there and on YouTube. So we want to thank you all for joining us, and we'll have another interesting episode next week. Tom, what do we always say?
Adios, amigos.
Adios, amigos. And I always say, adios, compañeros.